Let's not mince words. I think that a lot of red pill and manosphere content is actually feminine at its core. Well, maybe that's not entirely accurate, as I don't want to equate femininity to insult. Maybe it's even more accurate to say that I think that the red pill online space is oversaturated with weak men masquerading as desirable, successful men, with sheep cosplaying as wolves. I think that it is pedestalizing men who are the opposite of what I believe and what I think anyone with any level of common sense would agree is a healthy male role model. And we are placing such men into positions of influence over the minds of our screen addicted youth and young adults. And you might not think that it's that big of a deal, that it's just some crazy kids on the internet, but some influencers today are quite literally wielding more power over informing the public than entire news outlets. So I do think that there is some value in talking about it. I ask that you extend some grace to my voice box and my lungs, as I haven't been able to fully recover and I've been kind of running on fumes for the last couple of weeks. I was going to wait till I was fully rested and 100%, but I got bored of sitting around feeling unproductive, so I thought I'd turn my camera on and start talking. So here we are. I digress. I think that the red pill audience is oversaturated also with young men who are struggling with direction, with purpose and self-esteem and what it means to be a man, and in their search end up finding themselves watching hours upon hours of grown men sitting around gossiping, arguing, clout chasing, and grifting. Men who did not grow up in stable homes themselves, who did not grow up desirable to women, who don't have any experience with being successful with women outside of leveraging their internet clout and money for access to the types of women who sell themselves for internet clout and money. Grown men who rarely speak about women in any sort of positive light, which is important, for out of the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. Grown men whose values and advice seem to be anchored no deeper than a woman's skin or a man's wallet. Call me crazy, but there's always been something a little bit unsettling to me about the idea of a group of grown men spending multiple hours a day circle jerking each other's egos while debating intoxicated, ignorant, adolescent, clout-chasing prostitutes. Granted, it can be entertaining at times, no different than smutty reality TV, but unfortunately, it seems that not everyone has the self-awareness and cognitive ability to filter and separate the wheat from the chaff. And maybe there is some value being had in some of these conversations, but I remain convinced that after a certain point, consuming copious amounts of red pill content is actually hindering you as a man more than it's helping you. I do think a lot of the manosphere platforms and influencers bastardize what red pill was originally intended for and what it was about, and with content that capitalizes on confirmation bias to profit off of the backs of men who are struggling, shaking hands with one hand and then stabbing them in the back with the other. Too many influencers today are just arms dealers seeking to profit off of the gender war and other divisive and victim-fueled issues that we insist on creating in the first world, since it seems like we have nothing better to do. It seems to me that the line between pro-men content and anti-women content begins to blur in the wrong hands, which is what you see at the extreme ends of any ideology or belief system. Pro-women can become anti-men the same way pro-German can become anti-Semitism, because what's even more powerful and uniting than a common interest? The answer is a common enemy, someone to blame. A story of good versus evil will always sell papers. It is what fuels mob mentality and justifies self-righteous actions, no matter how destructive. And if you take one scroll through the comment sections in these red pill conversations, you will quickly find the anti-female energy is strong. And my question is, do you really think that the guys spending hours spewing their disdain for female nature from behind cartoon profile pictures are the type of guys who know the first thing about the touch of a woman? No. These are the guys buying bottles of used bathwater on OnlyFans. Now, what I will say that I do like about the red pill, or at least what I in good faith believe that the red pill is meant to be is that it's meant to inform men of the statistical realities of the powers and systems and relationship dynamics in modern society that be. I also like that it places emphasis on becoming as healthy and successful as possible as a man. These are good things. And I also think that there may even be some value to be found in the exposing of the types of women who really are hedonistic, parasitic Jezebels. I think that a lot of men, we grew up wanting to believe that women are sugar, spice, and everything nice, which is naive. And I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing to see more men being exposed to how women can be just as predatory and delusional and selfish as any man. And as men, we do need to have boundaries. I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing to see more men waking up and thinking twice about the character and values behind the pretty face of overtly sexual and materialistic women who are objectifying and prostituting themselves. The fact that this girl won ASMR Creator of the Year a few years back on Twitch by sucking off microphones should be an embarrassment to mankind, in my opinion.
And I'm super proud of my community for voting with one hand. Thank you so much.
The aliens debating on whether or not to destroy Earth must have seen that video and decided, never mind, their self-destruction is inevitable. But that said, I think it's important to understand that these women would not be doing these things if there was no demand for it. It is an issue of supply and demand. Andrew Tate did not make money because he managed sex worker compounds. He made money because of how many down bad simps were subscribing and spending their time and money chatting online with these girls, not realizing that it was Andrew and Tristan that they were actually messaging.
Do you want to see my girlfriend's ass?
If you're being serious, why not? Damn.
Do you like it?
I do like it.
Do you?
The truth is, never before in all of human history have men had this much access to women and sexually explicit content 24/7. And no one has any idea what to do with that. The porn industry generates anywhere between $15 to $100 billion, billion with a B, per year. That is more than the NBA, NFL, and Hollywood combined, and it is only set to grow astronomically as it becomes increasingly accessible and immersive. I don't know much in the big scheme of things, but I do know this. Despite all of the witch hunting of the fatherless women in 304s who are profiting off of the machine does not run without the fuel of the consumer. I am as guilty as the next man of being a consumer myself, especially in my younger years, even so far as I was dating and messing around with sex workers and dancers. But that was all a reflection of me, because at that time my own life was full of addiction and deceit and behaviors that did not align with the man I knew I was called to be. I had to step up and become accountable for my own behaviors first, because who was I to point out the sticks in other people's eyes while I still had the trunk of a tree protruding from my own socket? I think it is hypocritical to bring the hammer down on women's heads if you as a man are engaging with the content or sleeping with the type of women you want to self-righteously condemn. Set your own house in order first. Now, let's bring that rabbit trail back. So some of the content that performs the best on the internet is controversial content that caters and panders to wounded and extreme viewpoints and groups. It profits off of unhealthy people, because healthy people who are finding success IRL are far less likely to be living chronically online, fueling these echo chamber entertainment channels. It is important to understand that internet entertainment profits from having y'all sit around spending your time consuming as many hours of content as humanly possible. So behind this veil of entertainment, community, and pseudo-societal acceptance, there is a feeding tube that is connected to your brain that is slowly but surely pumping bias confirming ideas and energy into your mind and into your heart. And I think that it is important to consider with great care what we are consuming online, because we are what we eat. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything that you do flows from it. Pretty soon that little voice may start whispering, it's women's fault that your life sucks as a man. Feminism is oppressing you, and as a man, you are worthless in this gynocentric society. All females are hypergamous hoes and gold diggers. They are liars, selfish, parasitic, opportunistic. They are all just waiting to destroy you. But that is just female nature. It is just what they are. They are worthless after the age of 30. They are worthless if they have a child by another man. Women are never faithful to you as a man. They don't care about you as a man. They are only there to take from you. They are narcissistic creatures, incapable of logic. If you ever make the mistake of opening up emotionally with one, she will only use it against you. Only women, children, and dogs are loved unconditionally. You see, this is the script playing behind the scenes of far too much of this content that is being sold to men today. They are the battle cries of victimhood, of weak, wounded, fearful men, the mantras of the antisocial and sociopathic, and confirmation bias is one hell of a drug. And the problem is, when you start to view women through this distorted lens of red pill rage, you become incapable of viewing women as human beings. You begin to see them as pawns and NPCs, or even as your ops. Such men become completely incapable of having a healthy relationship with a human woman who has her own thoughts, opinions, boundaries, dreams, and hopes, like John Zerka says. The problem with women over 25 is that they come with opinions, so it's way better to date 18-year-olds who are just impressed that you have a car.
25-year-old woman way prettier than a 19-year-old. But she comes with an opinion. But if you date a 19-year-old girl, she just has fun.
The only women such men will be able to align with are the immoral ones, the ones that they can buy with money, or the extremely naive and wounded, or the ones who are utterly dependent doormats who will allow and enable abusive and controlling men. At least until it comes time to get their pound of flesh back in divorce court. And isn't that just the cruel full circle irony of a self-fulfilling prophecy?
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Isn't this also an uncanny reflection of what is happening on the other side of the gender divide? Or is it just me? All these women being indoctrinated by leftist and feminist propaganda, who sit in their echo chambers hooked up to their feeding tubes, blaming the patriarchy for all of the issues in society, justifying all of their poor decisions and behaviors on men and oppression, sliding down the slippery slope of a pro-women mentality into an anti-men mentality, until they can't even show up and function in relationships without feeling like every dish cleaned and every load of laundry folded is an act of oppression, abuse, and misogyny. All of the emotional labor and unpaid labor and labor, and all of these women are being rendered incapable of healthy relationships with men because they see them as the enemy and themselves as the default victim. All that's left for such women is to settle for some spineless, soy-fueled ally who will serve as a living, breathing apology for his gender and spends his days simping in servitude as an act of reparations for all of the oppression in human history. That, or be happier alone, reading fictional books fantasizing about the masculine men she believes she deserves. Once again, I digress. It's not an exact equation, and obviously I'm exaggerating, but if you step back and look at the big picture, both sides of the coin start looking eerily similar. Victim mentality is an insidious and pervasive beast. Now, something I think we should also not underestimate is taking a good hard look at the people that we are electing into positions of power and influence in these groups. Does the head of the party not also expose the underbelly at some level? Which is arguably my strongest argument against the red pill or the manosphere at large. We must ask ourselves, when it comes to selecting role models of masculinity for our youth to emulate, of the men that we are currently choosing to glorify in those positions of influence, Which would you trust with your sisters, your mothers, or your daughters? Why would we ever celebrate the type of men that we would never trust the women that we love with? The type of men who literally create more of the exact women that the red pill then turns around and attacks and complains about and shames. One of the reasons I think that we glorify such men is because they represent and justify our most narcissistic and egomaniacal and fleshly desires. Get money, get status, get women. These things do require a level of sacrifice to achieve, and very men make it to the top of the totem pole, but still, none of them are about sacrificing anything for anyone else. It is all about me, me, me. I am a high value man. I built this statue of me, this idol. So now you all must worship it and bow down and obey me.
I'm the alpha, I'm the leader, I'm the one to trust.
So what happens when we take a step back from the forest and look at the trees? What do we objectively see when we look at the heroes and influencers of the red-pilled manosphere? All of these alpha males. We see Donovan Sharp officiating his own cringy wedding to a middle-aged single mother inside of some motel conference room. Is this not the same man who built his whole career and platform preaching about how worthless women over 30 and single mothers were?
We're going to exchange vows. She's got a few words for me. I've got some words for her. And then I will, the power vested in me, Donovan Sharp. She's my wife. Yeah, buddy. All right. You gas me up. Hey. Go.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Each day, when we wake up, we choose womanhood. You have taught me that the right is due every day and not to take things for granted. A healthy garden makes watering, pruning, and attention in order to flourish. Thank you for demanding the best of me always. I promise to stand beside you, walk behind you, and be a reliable source of peace for you. I promise to show you my love through my actions, words, and thoughts. Together our lives are great, and the sky is the limit. I love you, and I'm happy to be with you. Go Eagles.
Go Birds, baby! Cindy, it's been a hell of a ride. It's been, and the way we met was very unorthodox. Our relationship is very unorthodox. You're wearing a wedding ring now because, well, there you go. You've been wearing it for 7.5 years. But, you know, like I said, I bring out the best in you, but you make me happy, you really do. I was happy before you, and if you and I decide to part ways for whatever reason, I'll be happy without you. But I'm very, very glad to have someone like you in my life. I've been successful in many ventures in my life, and I've never really had someone like you. I really haven't. I'm glad that I made you into the woman you are today, and I'm glad that you continue to hold that standard. Success is really, really cool to have, to be financially successful, but it's much, much sweeter when you have someone like you to share it with.
Or how about John Zerka, the clout-chasing clown? A drug addict who hangs out and sleeps with drunk teenaged girls and live streams himself chatting up 14-year-olds online like this.
So how old are you guys?
What? 14.
14? Me too.
Ya quisiera tener como 40.
Yes. No, my girlfriend is 14. She's right here. Adolf Hitler. You know Hitler? Do this.
I understand.
Put your arm up. Do this with me. Girls, put your arm up.
Is this not the same guy who, when I spoke up against him talking about messing with and sleeping around with teenagers, he posted on X calling my mother a pig and goading me into a fist fight, which after his fighting skills later surfaced on the internet, he may have regretted. What an icon of manhood. Or MLD, telling women to endure physical abuse. Or Fresh, who claims to have slept with over 1,000 women, which even if it wasn't complete cap, still is nothing to brag about. These chronically online dudes and scammers are your gurus of masculinity? These false prophets pandering for profit? These are the Avengers here to save the world from the plummeting testosterone rates? Please, I promise you, if you follow these sorry excuses for men, you will end up just like them. Understand, only women without morals and without any self-worth would get caught dead messing with these types of men. These dudes are always talking about how high-value men get their pick of women, and yet none of them have the good looking 10 out of 10 modest wifey material woman that they talk such a big game about. The math does not math. Honestly, it has been satisfying to me watching the echo chambers crumble one by one as those without integrity continue to expose themselves in 4K. And it will be interesting to see who is left standing in a year or two from now when the dust finally settles, because old Father Time is undefeated.